All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are going deep, deep into a fascinating corner of Pot Limit Omaha.
Deep indeed.
We are talking wraps.
Yes.
Do you ever feel like those straight draws in PLO
Yeah.
just hit way different than in Hold'em?
Absolutely.
Well, today we are going to find out why, and we've got some great resources lined up to help us do it.
Yeah, looking forward to this.
We've got Jay Nandez, Best Bet USA, PLO Quick Pro, and Counting Outs.
Excellent.
And they are going to help us break down this crucial concept, help give you a real edge at the tables.
Big edge.
Because just imagine, flopping a straight draw that's practically guaranteed to win.
I'm listening.
Anyway,
That's the power of wraps.
But in PLO, that's right. Think of wraps as street draws on steroids.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in Hold'em, you're looking at 8 outs, max, usually.
Right.
But in PLO,
yeah,
hold on to your hat, because we are talking 9, 13, even up to 20 outs.
Okay, now more outs. That sounds good to me.
Yeah. But how do these wraps actually work?
So, yeah, how do they work?
What makes them different?
Okay, imagine the board has a 4.
Right.
And you're holding a 3, a 5, and a 6.
Okay.
That's a wrap, right?
Gotcha.
You're beautifully wrapping around that 4 on the board, creating that straight draw.
I see.
Now, if you had a 7 instead of that 6...
Okay.
it wouldn't be a wrap.
Right.
Because it doesn't connect.
It doesn't have that same flow.
Doesn't have that same beautiful flow.
Right.
It's all about how your hole cards are working together with the board to create this winding straight.
I like that.
Winding.
Yeah, our hand is kind of weaving through the board cards.
Waving.
Yeah. And I'm guessing there are different ways to actually count outs.
Yeah, of
Back
course,
block
some players, they like to, meticulously count each out, based on the specific cards.
Yeah.
Others, they prefer to memorize different wrap structures
Gotcha.
and their associated outs. And we'll talk about those structures a little bit later.
Right.
But first, let's talk about why mastering wraps can be a game changer.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
What makes these wraps so powerful?
Well, in PLO, having a straight draw with a ton of outs is a huge advantage.
Okay.
It's not just about hitting your straight.
Right.
It's about putting maximum pressure on your opponents.
Gotcha.
Especially those who are, used to the more, the simpler world of Hold'em.
Right. They're used to their 8 outers.
Exactly.
So it's almost as much of a psychological edge as it is mathematical.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you flop a big wrap in PLO, you're instantly in a dominant position.
Okay.
Because you're forcing your opponents to make tough decisions.
Right.
Often with limited information.
Yeah.
They're going to be sweating bullets every time a card comes out.
Right.
Wondering if it's going to complete your monster draw.
You mentioned monster wraps.
Oh, yeah.
Are we talking those 16, 20 outers?
Exactly. Yeah, those are the big boys.
Wow.
Hand crushers. I mean, those are the ones where your 4 hole cards and 2 board cards are working in perfect harmony to create a straight draw.
Right.
With just an absurd amount of outs.
Okay.
And you even have a good chance of beating sets.
Wait, beating sets?
Which are,
Which are usually considered pretty strong.
very strong. In PLO,
How often are we talking about here?
a 20-out wrap
Okay.
wins against a set roughly 70% of the time.
Wow. Okay, that's a serious edge.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the quantity of the outs.
Right?
Right? We also have to think about the quality.
The quality.
Like, are we drawing to the nuts?
That's right.
The absolute best hand?
The nuts, yeah.
Or are we drawing to a straight that can be beat?
Yeah, that's right. So,
Okay, so even with a monster wrap, we could end up second best.
absolutely.
That seems a little counterintuitive.
For sure. So let's say the board is 9-8 deuce,
All right.
and you have 10-7-6 in your hand. Big wrap,
Yeah.
right? But if your opponent has Jack 10-7 in their hand,
Oh,
they've got you dominated,
right.
their straight will always be better,
No matter what
no
comes.
matter what comes out.
Wow, so it's not just about having a lot of outs, it's about understanding the nuances
Absolutely.
of those outs.
That's right.
And what kind of straight we're actually drawing to.
Very important.
And then you mentioned earlier that having gaps in our hand is actually good for these.
Crucial.
For creating those monster wraps.
Yeah.
I mean, those gaps allow our hand to stretch out and connect with the board in multiple ways.
That's right. It gives you that flexibility.
Right. It's like it gives our hand more flexibility to create these big winding straights.
Exactly. Now that we've talked about why wraps are so powerful,
Yeah.
let's take a quick tour of the different types of wraps
Okay.
you'll encounter in PLO.
Oh, right.
There are 5 main structures.
Okay.
And luckily, they all have these cool nicknames.
Oh, nicknames. All right, I'm intrigued.
From the counting outs video.
Played on me.
So first up is the 9-out wrap, known as the inner wrap.
The inner wrap.
This is when all of your hole cards fall neatly between the board cards.
Okay.
Then there's the 13-out wrap, or the one-sider.
The one-sider, all right.
Because your whole card's wrapping around one side of the board.
It makes sense.
And then the two-sider.
Okay.
A 17-out wrap, when your hand's wrapping around both sides of the board.
So the more sides our hand wraps around,
Yeah.
the more outs we have.
Exactly.
What about those monster wraps, though?
Oh, yeah.
The 16 and 20 outers.
So we've got the one-sided monster and the two-sided monster.
Of course.
In the 16-out version, all 4 of your hole cards are balanced on one side of the board.
Gotcha.
Well, in the 20-out wrap,
Yeah.
they're balanced on both sides.
Okay. All right. Now I'm starting to picture these structures in my mind a little bit more.
Good, good.
But just knowing what they look like wasn't enough, right?
You got it.
We have to know how to actually play these wraps
That's right.
strategically.
We got to use them.
All right. Well, let's get into that strategy then.
Let's do it.
What are some of the key things that we need to consider when we flop a wrap in PLO?
So many things.
All right.
There are so many things to consider.
Let's break it down. Okay, so we've got these different wrap structures down.
Yeah.
We know they can be incredibly powerful, but how do we actually play these things?
Right.
What are the strategic decisions we need to be making when we flop a wrap?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I think a great place to start is understanding the power of position.
Right. We talked about that earlier. Late position is good, but how does that actually play out
Sure.
when we're holding a wrap?
Okay, think of it this way. Late position gives you information.
Okay.
You get to see how your opponents are reacting before you have to make your move.
Right.
So let's say you're in late position and the flop comes down 10-8-6.
Okay.
You're holding Queen Jack 9-7.
Gotcha.
A beautiful two-sider, 17 outs.
All right. So we're drawing to any King, Queen, Jack, 9, 7, 5, or 4.
Beautiful.
That's a lot of outs.
It is a lot of outs.
But we're not messing around here.
And because you're in late position, right?
Yeah.
You get to see how your opponents act first.
Right.
If they're checking or betting weakly.
Uh-huh.
That might indicate weakness, right?
Okay.
Giving you an opportunity to bet strongly, build the pot, and put maximum pressure on them.
So we're not just calling and hoping to hit the straight.
No.
We're using our position and the strength of our wrap to really be aggressive.
Absolutely.
Maybe even force them to fold a better hand.
Absolutely. That's a key difference between Hold'em and PLO.
Right.
In
Right.
PLO, you often have to be the aggressor, even with draws.
Interesting.
Now, what if we have that same hand, Queen Jack 9-7,
Okay.
but we're in early position,
Right.
and that flop comes down 10-8-6?
That's a little trickier.
It is a little trickier, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the benefit of seeing what our opponents do
Right.
before we have to act.
Exactly.
So early position with big wraps requires a little more caution,
Okay.
especially in multi-way pots.
Uh-huh.
Remember, we're aiming to make the nuts
Right. The best possible straight.
the absolute best possible straight.
Exactly.
And in early position, we're just, we're more vulnerable
Okay.
to being overplayed.
Makes sense.
So a small raise or even a limp might be the better approach here,
Right.
just to kind of see how the hand develops
Right.
without committing too many chips.
So it's a balancing act. We want to protect our strong draw, but we don't want to get ourselves into a bad spot.
Exactly. That's PLO in a nutshell.
Right.
Right. Weighing those risks and rewards, making decisions based on incomplete information.
It's what makes it fun.
It's what makes it so challenging and engaging and exciting.
All right. Well, let's ramp up the excitement here
Let's do it.
and talk about those monster wraps, the
Yeah.
kind that make your heart skip a beat
Oh, yeah.
when they hit the flop.
I love those.
Yeah.
All right, give me an example.
Okay, picture this. The board comes down 9-8 deuce,
Okay.
and you are holding Jack 10 7 6.
Gotcha.
Textbook one-sided monster.
16 glorious outs.
Yes.
We're drawing to any queen, jack, 10, 7, 6, or 5.
That's a lot.
We're practically printing money at this point, right?
Hold on a second. Remember, not all outs are created equal.
Oh.
In this case, we actually have 10 nut outs
Gotcha.
and 6 non-nut outs.
Okay, so meaning even with this massive draw, we could hit a straight that's not the best straight.
Absolutely. Let's say a queen comes on the turn.
So,
Great, we got our straight.
yeah, awesome.
But what if our opponent has queen 9 in their hand?
Uh-oh.
They've got a higher straight, and we're suddenly on the losing end.
So even with monster wraps, we got to be aware of the potential for domination.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Wow.
a mistake a lot of players make.
They get so excited about the sheer number of outs
Yeah.
that they forget to consider the quality of those outs
Right.
and the overall board texture.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about looking beyond the surface and really understanding the nuances
Absolutely.
of each situation.
For sure.
Now, we talked earlier about how two-tone boards can affect the value of wraps.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure. Remember, a two-tone board has two cards of the same suit,
Right.
which introduces the possibility of a flush draw.
Uh-huh.
And flush draws can be dangerous because they have 9 outs.
Right.
So they can often beat our wraps.
So even if we have a big wrap, if there's a potential flush out there,
Yeah.
our hand might not be as strong as we think.
Exactly. Let's say we're back on that 10-8-6 flop.
All right.
But this time, the 10 and the 6 are hearts.
Okay.
Any heart on the turn or the river completes a flush.
And suddenly that 17-out wrap doesn't look so invincible anymore.
Not so invincible anymore. We have to consider that our opponents might be holding hearts
Right.
and drawing to a flush.
Gotcha.
It's all about adjusting our strategy based on the specific circumstances of the hand.
Okay, so we've covered position, the importance of the nuts, how board texture can impact our wrap strength.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
What other strategic considerations do we need to keep in mind?
Well, there's another crucial concept that trips up many PLO players,
Okay.
especially those coming from Hold'em.
All right.
Semi-bluffing.
Semi-bluffing with wraps.
Yes.
Okay, I'm familiar with that concept in Hold'em, but how does that work in PLO?
So in PLO, pots can get huge very quickly, especially when people are chasing these big draws.
Yeah.
Semi-bluffing with a wrap is about leveraging the power of your draw
Okay.
to win the pot, even if you don't immediately hit your straight.
So instead of passively waiting to see if it comes in,
No.
we're using our wrap as a weapon
As a
to
wedge.
force our opponents to fold.
That's right. So let's imagine we're heads up and the flop comes down 10-8-6.
All right, back to our favorite flop.
Back to our favorite flop,
There it is.
giving us our 17-out wrap
Yeah.
with Queen Jack 9-7.
Yeah.
Our opponent bets into us.
All right, so they could have a strong hand, like a set.
They could have 2 pair, they could have a set.
Right.
They could even be sensing weakness and trying to steal the pot.
Gotcha.
This is a prime spot for a semi-bluff.
Okay.
Instead of just calling, we can raise.
We can raise.
We're representing a stronger hand than we have,
Right.
putting pressure on our opponent to fold.
So we're betting big, even though we haven't actually hit our straight.
We are.
Isn't that a little risky?
There's definitely risk involved,
Okay.
but the potential rewards can be significant.
Right.
If our opponent folds,
Uh-huh.
we win
Yeah.
the pot right then and there.
Right.
And even if they call,
Yeah.
we still have a strong draw to the nuts,
Mm.
giving us a good chance to win on the turn or the river.
So we're creating that fold equity.
Creating fold equity. That's right.
The chance that our bet will make our opponent fold.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And the beauty of semi-bluffing with wraps is that even if we get called,
Right.
we're not in terrible shape, right?
We're right.
We still have that powerful draw to fall back on.
Yeah, it's a nice little backup plan.
It is. But of course,
Yeah.
semi-bluffing is an art, not a science.
Of course, of course.
We need to carefully consider our opponent, the board texture, our position in the hand.
Right, so it's not a move to use recklessly. It's about picking our spots
But can your spot?
and using these semi-bluffs strategically.
Absolutely.
What are some factors that might make a semi-bluff more or less appealing?
Well, if our opponent is very aggressive and likely to call our raise,
Mm-hmm.
a semi-bluff might not be the best play.
Right, right.
On the other hand, if they're more passive and prone to folding to pressure,
Yeah.
a well-timed semi-bluff could be very effective.
So understanding our opponent's tendencies is key here.
Absolutely. We also need to consider the board texture.
Okay.
If the board is very coordinated
Uh-huh.
and there are a lot of potential draws out there,
Right.
our semi-bluff might not be as effective.
Gotcha.
Our opponent might be more likely to call with a weaker hand,
Right.
hoping to hit their own draw.
So it's like we're weighing all these different factors
Exactly.
and trying to make the best possible decision.
It's a puzzle.
It is a puzzle, isn't it?
It is. That's what makes PLO so fascinating.
Oh, I know.
It's a game of constant adaptation, calculation,
Right.
where every decision we make has the potential to swing the outcome of the hand dramatically.
This is a lot to absorb. I'm starting to see how mastering PLO wraps goes way beyond just counting outs.
It does.
It's about understanding all these layers of strategy
Absolutely.
and using them to our advantage.
That's right.
We've covered a lot of ground on wraps, from those basic structures to the art of the semi-bluff.
It's been a journey.
And these things, they can be incredibly powerful.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm guessing there's even more to it.
There always is.
What are some of those more advanced concepts we need to grasp?
Okay, well, one of the most important is understanding how to adjust your play
Okay.
based on the effective stack size.
Effective stack size. Can you remind us what that means?
Yeah, so that's just the smaller of the two stacks involved in a hand.
Gotcha.
So if you have $1,000 and your opponent has 500,
Right.
the effective stack size is $500.
Right. That's the maximum we can win from them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So how does this play into our decision-making with wraps?
Yeah, how does that affect things?
Well, in PLO, pots can get very big very quickly, especially when multiple players are chasing big draws.
Right.
So let's say your head's up.
Okay.
Effective stack size is shallow, maybe 50 big blinds.
Right.
And you flock a monster wrap.
Beautiful.
Your opponent comes out betting strong.
Okay.
In this situation, you might consider just shoving all in with your draw.
Now, that seems a little counterintuitive. Why would we shove with a draw when we could potentially hit it?
I know, it seems counterintuitive. But
yeah.
With a shallow effective stack, you're likely to get all the money in on the flop anyway.
Okay.
Whether you hit your straight or not.
Right.
So shoving just puts maximum pressure on your opponent.
Gotcha.
And forces them into a very tough decision.
So we're using the fact that the stacks are small to our advantage.
Exactly.
We're not giving them a chance to outmaneuver us on later streets.
That's right.
Now, contrast that with the scenario where the effective stack size is much deeper.
Okay.
Maybe 200 big blinds.
Right. Deeper stacks.
If you flop a big wrap.
Yeah.
And your opponent bets, you might be more inclined to just call and see a turn card.
Yeah, why the more cautious approach?
Right, why the more cautious approach?
With those deeper stacks, there's more room to maneuver.
Okay.
If you hit your straight on the turn, you could potentially win a massive pot. But if you shove on the flop and miss, you're risking your entire stack.
Right. So with deeper stacks, we're playing a longer game, being a little bit more patient.
Yeah, a little more patient.
Waiting, trying to win a really big pot.
Exactly.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It highlights how crucial it is to be aware of the effective stack size.
What a huge.
And how it can influence our decisions with wraps.
Absolutely.
Any other advanced tips you can share with us?
Oh, there are so many, but one I can't stress enough.
Okay.
Is the importance of understanding your opponents.
Right.
PLO is a game where reading people and recognizing tendencies can be just as valuable as knowing the math.
We've talked about that before, like noticing if someone tends to overplay top pair.
Yeah, top pair, yeah.
How can we use that type of information when we're playing these wraps?
So let's say you've been playing against someone.
All right.
You observe they tend to bet big.
Okay.
Even when they might not have the best hand.
They're trying to bully their way to the pot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to bully. They're trying to use those big bets to scare everyone off.
Yep.
Now imagine you flop a decent wrap.
Okay.
Maybe a 13-outer.
Right.
And this player comes out betting aggressively. Now, knowing their tendency to overplay, you might be more inclined to call their bet or even raise it.
That's interesting.
Because we know they might be bluffing.
So we're using our knowledge of their weakness to exploit them. Potentially forcing them to fold a hand that might actually be better than ours.
It happens all the time.
Wow. So this is where that psychological aspect of PLO becomes super powerful.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about the cards in front of you.
Right.
It's about understanding your opponents, their tendencies.
Gotcha.
And how to use that information to make profitable decisions.
This is all starting to make sense now.
Good.
Mastering PLO wraps is about so much more than just recognizing those structures.
Yeah.
And counting outs.
It's about putting it all together?
Yeah, it's about weaving together all those different elements. Position, board texture, effective stack size.
Everything.
Our opponent's tendencies.
All matters.
To really make the best possible play.
Yeah.
This has been a super, super enlightening deep dive.
I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on wraps.
Good.
And how they can be used to dominate in PLO.
Awesome. Remember, becoming a skilled PLO player takes time, practice, and a willingness to constantly learn.
Right.
Refine your strategy.
It's a journey.
It is a journey, it is. Yeah. But with dedication and the right tools, you can achieve great things at the PLO tables.
As our listener continues on their PLO journey, I want to leave them with one final thought.
All right, shoot.
Now that you have a deeper understanding of RAPs,
yeah,
how will you incorporate this knowledge into your overall strategy?
Interesting question.
Will you become a RAP specialist?
Ooh, the RAP specialist.
A master of the semi-bluff?
I like that.
Or will you find your own unique way to wield this newfound power?
Ooh, good question. Find your own way.
The choice is yours.
That's the beauty of PLO. There's no single right way to play.
Right.
It's a game of endless possibilities.
I love it.
The most successful players are those who find their own style, their own edge.
Their own path to victory.
Absolutely.
That's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of PLO rap.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Until next time, may your raps be monstrous, your reads be sharp,
oh yeah,
and your pots be overflowing.
Love it.